Okay, tonight's little story is about perseverance, and we're going back to the 1996 Olympics where I was the assistant director of the warm-up track for the Olympic Games in Atlanta. Um, Tonight's little story is sponsored by Racer 5. Um, so I was in the Olympic track for the warm-ups, and Sergei Bubka, who was then the world record holder at the time, was in the warm-up track, and they had already completed the first rounds of the Olympic trials. So he was in the finals of the Olympic trials. And I don't know exactly the date because it's been so long. Let's say that the first round of the pole vault trials was on Friday. So this was probably like Monday or Tuesday um, of the following week. And Sergei Bubka was out on the track with his coach, and they had a bungee cord at roughly 21 feet. I mean, it was well above the existing world record then and now. While I was out there, I watched him make it 5 or 6 times, and not by a little bit, by a lot. It was unbelievable to watch, and there was a few people out there, and we watched it, and it was just like, and he would make his thing, and then his coach would talk to him in Russian, and they would go about their business. So about 3 or 4 days later, when the true Olympic finals for the pole vault were being held, um, all the people were there in the warm-up track, and he got his call. The call came out to uh, line up to take the shuttle to the Olympic Stadium because Cheney Stadium was about, I don't know, maybe a half a mile or mile from the Olympic Stadium. So they made the call in French and English, and I believe even German at the time. And he kept walking around, and all the pole vaulters were getting on the shuttle, and he's still walking around the track by himself. And I went over, and I don't speak Russian, so I tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, hey, hey, you got to get on the bus. You got to get on the bus." And he looked at me, and he reached down and he grabbed his Achilles tendon and went, and so he didn't jump that day because he had hurt his Achilles between maybe in practice that day, but he didn't jump. And so he didn't compete in the 1996 Olympic finals. So years later, I'm telling this story, and one of the high people at UCS, Steve Chappell, I'm telling him the story. And he goes, "I heard that story. I heard that." So I realized, hey, I didn't just make it up. A lot of people saw this thing. He was ready to go that day, but he couldn't because he hurt himself. But then he came back and ultimately got his Olympic gold medal. So my story here is about perseverance. He had a bad day, um, couldn't compete in the Olympic finals. At that point in time, he was being dogged because he was the Olympic record, or he was the world record holder, but he didn't have an Olympic gold medal. And he came back and proved us all wrong. So perseverance is the key of today's story.